Hey everybody, welcome back. It's day 12 of 42 Days of Magical Practice. And just to kick off today's talk, I want to let you know Brian and I were just talking about what the whole point of these 42 days are. Of course, it's to become clear about something that you want and why you want it, and to begin to do these practices that will help move you toward it. But it is about more than that.
Right.
And maybe I would just say what you were just saying, because it's perfect.
Can you reiterate what I was saying?
This whole thing is about being aware, about being awake, and about making conscious choices. Whether you do something that you think is a good thing or a bad thing, if you're conscious in that moment and you consciously choose to act in a certain way, it means you'll be congruent with it, and it will produce a good result for you, regardless of whether society thinks it's a good choice or a bad choice, or a good act or a bad act.
Right. We're not here to judge by anybody's standards, but the person's then by our own, right? So, or each person will judge themselves, right? So
this whole thing about the black mirror and the white mirror is really, it's not about like tearing yourself down or building yourself up or patting your own back or beating your own back. It's about just looking at it and making those things that you normally do on a habitual, unconscious basis conscious.
Right.
And in being conscious,
you can choose whether to do them or not consciously.
Yeah.
Right.
And because the choice is conscious, it's good. It will have a good result for you because it's conscious.
Right.
Not because you did the right thing or the wrong thing, but because you made a conscious act instead of a habitual unconscious behavior.
Right. We're making everything that we do not part of just this repetitive program. It's not just a loop tape of 90 to 95% of the same thoughts that are happening every day. You know, the little flip comments that we make on the way by when somebody asks something or says something, or the little bit of gossip that we, chime in on afterwards, whether not even thinking about it, just sort of like we're not even thinking about what we're saying, we're just saying it.
Right.
Because it's just what we always do. And those little things, whether they're hurtful or kind or whatever, it's just, again, it's hey, how you doing? I don't really want to know how you're doing. It's become a greeting, not a real. It doesn't mean what the words are supposed to mean anymore. It's like, if people were really serious, it'd be like, oh, well, thanks for asking. Let me tell you about that. And that's what they don't want, right? They don't want to be captured for an hour. It's like, come have a cup of coffee with me. I'd love to tell you my whole life story.
Right.
What's going on in my life now? Oh, you won't believe. Jeez, it's like this is going on. No, everybody's too busy. Nobody really wants time. So, but we're using the words that have a specific meaning, the tone and the phrasing and all of that has a specific meaning, but we've changed it, to be just, sort of a carefree greeting, an unconscious greeting of somebody rather than what they actually mean. And that becomes more and more important as we go through these steps, right? And we'll see that is a huge, that's a huge part of magical practice, right? Is saying what you mean and knowing what the words mean in detail, right? And to sometimes to, infinitesimally small degrees, right? We can make it crazy,
Right.
You don't want to do that, but you can zero in on that, to the tone and the phrasing and all of those things that are so important for certain types of practice, right? But we carry that into the day, and we've taken it to another level on the just sort of unthinking side, right? We just say things without thinking it, and they don't mean what they mean anymore. So already we're incongruent.
Well, I think it's a great time to mention, that it's like you are always telling me, it's like your spiritual life and your daily life should not be two separate things. It's not like, oh, we're getting better at these practices so that when we go into the temple or we go into our meditation room or we go out in nature with whatever implements we have with us, that we're better at being in ceremony or being in ritual, but that we can it's like you're doing it all the time.
You're doing it all the time. And it's unconscious is the point.
It's like, right, you're performing this unconscious ritual when you're talking
90
with
to
your
95% of the
coworkers
day.
at the water cooler or whatever, you know, or looking at stuff on Facebook or whatever you're doing. It's like you're performing a ritual.
And it's producing a result.
And it's producing a result.
But it's not a result that most people want.
It's making you feel a certain way, which
Right.
is a result, an internal result, and then that ripples out into the external result. You know,
Right.
It's like, what does your world look like? Well, you know, what are the rituals that you perform every day that make you feel how you feel and what you carry around?
And unconsciously, right?
Yeah.
So it's like they're just on a loop tape again.
Yeah.
So why would you think something else different was going to happen if you didn't cut that tape first? It's just going to keep replaying the same thing over and over and over again. So this is all part of the practice of cutting that loop tape and becoming aware of the things that you say and do, not all at once. Obviously, that would drive anybody insane.
Right. It's not like
It's not
this is
instantaneous.
today's goal.
Yeah,
It's like,
today's goal is to be perfect.
being perfectly awake and aware all day. Do everything consciously. Congratulations. You're enlightened.
That's right.
You know?
I just remember, just as a side note, it's just kind of one of those, weird things. It's I was instructed one time to go through my day, and I see a lot of people during the day in my line of work, right? So
You're an acupuncturist.
Right.
A lot of people don't know that.
okay, and so I see, not like an average acupuncturist, I see many people in a day, up to 40 patients a day. So, and I was instructed by one of my teachers, not an acupuncture teacher, right? So to every person that I saw on pick a day, and every person that I saw on that day have just as much open-hearted compassion for them as possible from the time that you enter the room to the time that you leave. And and it's not like obviously with 40 pages a day, it's not like I don't do a good job. I wouldn't have any patience if I didn't do a good job, and I've been doing it for a long time. But the idea is that you have a specific job, and yes, you're compassionate. You wouldn't be doing this work if you weren't. But to really have that intense, full on, look them in the eye the whole time and just have that back and forth and really be concerned with everything that they say to the nth degree. When I got home, I was like, it was like that scene in Kindergarten Cop, where Arnold comes back. I mean, I'm really dating myself now, right? Where he just, never seen it? No. And he just like collapses in bed. He's just, because he's been teaching kindergarten all day, and they've just been, going crazy. And it was like, I could barely talk. I was just like so exhausted. Now my day, the flow went just like every other day, and everything else was pretty normal. But just that intensity of being completely aware all the time for however many, I work long days. So it's, again, being in that was just exhausting. And I just remember when I reported that back, just how hard he was laughing.
Yeah.
Just, because it was exactly what he was hoping for, was that I would get that full onslaught of like smashing of, like this takes a lot of energy, to be fully engaged all the time. But it gives us a place to start and how to look at ourselves and see, okay, what do I need to pare away to be able to do that and keep it going and not be completely wiped out every day? I mean, nobody can keep that up forever. So it's like you have to be able to sort of figure out where to start, what to do, how do you do that, what do you pare away that's not necessary, and where do you put your energy at that point, and what things are really important and what things are not so important. So you're gauging and still trying to be congruent with everything you do, right? So yes, this exercise primarily is not a beating down or a boosting up. It is making you more aware of your repetitive unconscious actions and thoughts and words through the day. and making them, sort of pop for you so that you can then decide, do I really want to say this? Do I really want to act on this? And how do I want to do that? What do I want to say? What do I want to do in relationship to whatever's going on at the time? And so it's really making us aware every day of what we do, and there's nothing that's unconscious anymore. That's the goal in the end.
Right. And today's exercise that we're introducing is a little different because it's one of those things that, well, like all of them, but this one I think specifically, not something that you just want to do once.
Right.
Or not just something that you want to focus on today, but begin to introduce into hopefully your daily routine.
Right, your daily routine. And nobody's expecting that anybody's going to be perfect at it for the first time, right? So it's going to be something that you work on slowly but surely. It is, it's a practice, right? It's not a done, it's a practice, right? So we continue to do it. So, and it comes from, it comes from before that time, but one of the first people that sort of consolidated and made it into a practice, and it's called the Spiritual Exercises of Saint Ignatius, right? So. And so basically the idea is to, when you have your mirrors done and you go through your next day, so here's this 12th day, we're going to go through our day. We've already got our things here, right, from the first 2 days. We go through our day, and then when we get home, we do a mental review of the day.
When you get home or before you go to sleep?
When you can do it either way.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times, traditionally they would say, before you go to sleep, or when you for them it would be, you have dinner and then you have your, prayers. And in their tradition, you would actually have a confessor that you would go to and say, I did this, I did this, I did this.
I did this well, I did this poorly.
Right. And then, then it continued from their tradition. But for us, it's the same idea, right? So either before bed or when you get home, when it's fresh in your mind, when you're still, you're not like collapsing from exhaustion, because you want to be relatively fresh. You want to be excited about doing it again. You want to really look at it as, again, no judgment. You want to sort of take it as like, wow, okay, now that I've been filmed all day long, by myself.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, where did I slip up? Because I don't really remember. I don't, let me rewind the tape and see. Let's go to the tape and see what's going on, right? So I rewind my day backwards usually. So it gives me a little bit different perspective too. I don't start from the beginning of the day and work forward. I go from where I am right now and move it backward. And that'll have other ramifications later, right? So I'm moving myself backward in time really quickly, and just seeing, it's like, believe me, the places with that idea, state what you're doing, why you're doing it, right? So I'm stating what I'm doing. Then I'm running the film backwards quickly.
I'm here to review my day
reverse, to see where I've either been incongruent or where I've been congruent. Either one, both.
Yeah, with that mirror as almost like just like a highlights of categories.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
To make it easier for those things to stand out.
And for your subconscious to know what you mean by that.
Right.
Because it may not initially, but once we list it out, then we're like, oh, okay, you're, congruency, incongruency. So that's how we do it. And so once we give it that intellectual understanding, that definition, then when we do it, it's going to pop those things out. We're not going to have to think about it so much. The review isn't going to take 8 hours of my 8-hour day, right? So I don't have to go through it minute by minute. It's like the slow rewind.
Rewind in real time.
That would be horrible. So we run it back, and we find those areas, and something may stick out to you, like, oh boy, this is, and one may trigger another. So, even rewinding it, you may hit one and say, oh, that one I did I did that several times today. So that would be the one that I pick. And so I'm just going to write that down in my journal. I fell down on this, compassion factor or whatever it is, right? And then I make a vow to myself. Again, this can be quite a serious exercise if it's taken out, in a really, in a very serious way. making a vow to yourself is a very serious thing. So I make a vow to myself that I'm going to, that tomorrow, literally tomorrow, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to plan out my day, and any place where this situation may come up again, I'm not going to respond unconsciously. I'm going to respond in a way that I want to respond, but using that as an indicator. So, and then we do the same thing with the positive one, right? So where we've done a good deed, or where we've been congruent, right? Then we're going to look at that too and say, oh, well, that was good. I like what that feels like. So anytime that comes up, I'll have more opportunity. I'm going to consciously do that. So it's not just going to be like, oh yeah, and then you don't even think about it.
I see. Yeah, it's no longer something that's congruent or positive that you do unconsciously, but something that in that moment that you acknowledge as a strength and as something that's congruent and going to produce really good results for you.
Exactly, because
again, giving it more meaning will have bigger impact
as we go on, right? Because
it's so funny.
we get as we give.
Yeah.
Right? If we give begrudgingly, we get begrudgingly.
Yeah.
It's not that we don't get, but we get begrudgingly. We get as we give. So we want to emulate those energies that we want to have communication with. We want to have communion with. We want to engage in some way, shape, or form, right? It's like, the spiritual exercise of St. Ignatius, that's part of it. They go through that, and then part of their contemplation and meditation practice, when they get to the meditative part, it's like they're walking in the footsteps of Christ, so it's like they're putting themselves in a place, a very, we would call it path walking to the nth degree, right? Because sometimes for most practices that I know of, it's a kind of a mental exercise, but they literally, it's almost more like a lucid dream, because they put themselves in such a state that they build slowly by degrees the senses. So first they just imagine themselves walking through the town in the sandals of Christ, and then they have the tactile sense of the dust on your feet, and then they smell the smells of that town, or the whatever was being laid before them, and feel the roughness of the cloth, and all of these things, and hear the sounds of people asking for healing or doing whatever, and it becomes this all-encompassing vision that you're walking into. And like assuming the God form from other traditions, right? We take some of that energy, we assimilate some of that energy, and, we become more like what we're trying to commune with in one way or another, what we're trying to engage with in one way or another. We're entraining to that frequency, that complex frequency of energies, how it's manifested at one time or another. So in that place, there is no time, right? We're just sort of moving into it and becoming that. Yeah. So it is something that we're trying, that we are becoming, because as we become more like that, or we become that, then, everything else that comes with that follows, right? So it's easier to do those things, whether, depending on people's tradition, right? Whether it's healing or, creating what you want in your life, helping someone else, or giving, or in some way impacting, again, yourself, your family, and your community, and onward and outward, right? So it may be that you really have an impact on somebody else that then has a huge impact on the world. It may not be directly from you, and that's okay, It's like, but we strive for that if that's something that, that you want, and, to be able to do that, to have the ability to do that. I believe that everyone can achieve that if they want that. It just takes doing it. It takes doing the work step by step, and there's lots of little points along the way that kind of boost you up. And there's lots of places where you get a bit of a slap, but you pick yourself back up and work back into it again, right? And so those things come, and we get a deeper understanding of ourselves through the whole process. So again, the primary focus of this exercise is to learn more about ourselves, not be unconscious, right? So to be awake and aware at all times, whether it's something that's, we don't want to repeat unconsciously, positive or negative, depending on how you view it, right?
And again, like, best to do it as lighthearted as possible.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is one of those sticky areas that can so easily become, serious.
Yeah.
Whether it's even bashing or not, it can be serious,
Sure.
And again, when I think about or project myself doing this exercise, I feel even now, having done this, it's like, even now, sitting, thinking about doing it again, I'm like, oh, okay. And I feel resistance.
Oh, sure.
Like apprehension about it. Not even apprehension, it's more like there's kind of like, oh, that would take more effort to do something different than my normal practice.
Right.
First of all, to have to really consciously start to think about my day through this lens,
right.
And it's just doing anything out of whatever's routine for you,
sure.
or something that seems like a pain in the ass or
right.
mundane or simple or whatever. It's all those things. It definitely pings on those things for me. So
sure.
I imagine, at least a few of the people that are going to watch this have that kind of aversion to doing it,
right.
or, for whatever reason.
Right.
And so I think that, like, you're always emphasizing that, do it with that lighthearted, adventurous spirit, and try not to take it too seriously, because
right.
we do that too much. I mean, I know I do.
Yeah. We have a tendency to do that. I think anytime something seems important to somebody,
right.
they want to give it more weight.
Yes.
Than it may necessarily need. I mean,
right. And
it is what it is,
yeah.
so it doesn't need you to give it more weight. It is. So, and it's happy being what it is. And so for us to, it's sort of like saying, I take the work very seriously, but I don't take myself seriously at all, if that's not apparent at this point.
Yeah, you're good at that.
Yeah, I'm good at that. So
I'm practicing.
Yeah, you're practicing. Yeah. But that's the idea. I mean, it's like, hence why, none of those lineage and who's who and who taught me and all of that stuff.
Right,
I disavow any of that for both my own purpose and for their sake, right? That, it is what it is. Judge me by what I do, judge me by the fruits that I put out there, not by who taught me or what, or, what scandals or God knows what is there. Who knows? I mean, it is what it is, so, that's the thing. It's like, we all walk here. It's nice to have company, but at the end of the day, we walk the path alone. That's it. So we want to have the experience we want to have, and if we can share it with others, that's great, and part of it is that, being of service in some way, shape, or form, whatever you feel that service is, and to who it goes to, so.
And this is this is knowing yourself, acting consciously.
That's right.
This is
knowing
the fast
yourself.
track to doing that and being in that place.
Absolutely. It definitely is such a, you will become more and more comfortable with this practice, and you will see, get through a day where you can review your day and you're like, congruent. You're going to be like, you're not going to want to go to sleep.
Dance.
Yeah, you're doing the happy dance. That's right.
Yeah.
It's like, so,
honestly,
those are the things, right? And so you're going to feel like, wow, I have a lot of energy. Why, and you're probably not even you're going to notice that energetic boost as you come home, or even through your day. Instead of you getting more and more tired through the day, here's the clue. As you go through your day, are you getting more tired, or are you getting more energetic? Do you have more energy at the end of the day than you do in the beginning of the day? If you do, I guarantee you, when you come home to review, there's not going to be anything there to correct.
Nothing incongruent.
Nothing incongruent. That's it.
Nothing
and so because
unconscious.
you've cut all those leaks, you've been conscious all day long, and in that consciousness, you are promoting crap ton of energy, right?
Right.
As
right,
our
right.
mutual
Technical
friend would
term.
say.
Yeah.
That's right. He would say it a little bit differently, but family stuff.
Right.
So, but that's the idea. So you're going to have, and it's not even actually from producing more energy. It's from cutting the bleeding off of energy the incongruency produces.
Right.
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 So,
right.
And that's a good point to make, because you're not even trying to increase your energy.
It's a great way. I mean, I know it's another one of those areas that we could just go into and talk about all day, but it's like, but just to reframe, if you're coming home and at the end of the day, you're just like fall on the floor exhausted, it's not because, you don't have the energy to, if the physical energy
Right.
to move through your day.
Right.
It's just there's so many places of incongruency and unconsciousness that stuff's just leaking off all day.
It's just leaking off all day. It's
your energy's so not consolidated, and so doing these exercises.
It's like your water bag has a million pinholes in it.
Yeah.
And it's just slowly leaking out through
Right,
the day.
right,
By the time you get
right.
home, you're just this empty sack. It's like, just lay me on the floor.
Be done with it.
Then be done with that. That's right. So that's the practice. That's
so again,
the
the
exercise.
practice in its simplest form.
Simplest form. I've got my 2 mirrors done. I go through the day. Today, the 12th day, right? I'm
Yes.
going to go through this, or the next day, whenever you're watching this video, and I'm going to go through that day with however I normally do, trying to be as aware and as conscious as possible, but because it's the beginning, it's probably not going to be super, right?
Yeah, right.
And then at the end of the day, when you get home, you're going to do that quick review of your day, and you're going to look for those places. You're going to state I am doing this review to find the places where I was incongruent, or the places where I was congruent,
Or to highlight the places.
where I was congruent, and I run my day backwards and look at that. Those things will pop, and sometimes they're very consistent. Sometimes they're all over the place. Pick something. Don't worry. I know you're going to want to try to do them all. Don't chunk it down. Pick one thing. And if you have good and bad, congruent and incongruent, then pick one of each. And the next day you're making the vow to be hyper vigilant for opportunities where those things can pop up. And when they do, you're going to be awake and aware,
Right.
and you're going to make a conscious choice to do it or not do it.
Either way.
But it's going to be conscious. And and in that way you're going to feel like your step gets lighter and lighter.
And that's really important. Choose to do it or not do it. Either way is okay.
As long as it's conscious and it's congruent with your thoughts, words, and deeds line up. Yeah. And then you'll see. The end result will be that, if you do it correctly, you're going to feel as though you have more energy through the day. You're just going to be happier. And we know the body loves that dopamine rush. And so you're physically entraining to that. You're making those neurons collect and make you, like, wow, that's what hyper-awareness does. I want more of that.
Yeah.
Give me more of
me
that.
some of that.
That's right. So then what neurons fire together, wire together, right? So they're going to go in there, they're going to bond and make these super highways, and it's going to be easier and easier for you. So even times when you're just sort of doing some mundane task, something comes up, something happens, and instead of just reacting, knee-jerk reaction, it's going to just trigger you to be like hyper-vigilant for a second and go, oh, I could react like this, or I could react like this. Choose the one that you want, but you choose it consciously and then follow through with it. And you're going to continue to cut off those bleeders and then, move through the day with more energy. It's going to give you more energy to produce what you want. We're coming back now full circle to, what was the initial, what do I want? And we're making it easier to understand why I want it, right? And then, so that goes through, and it's going to give you more energy to do that. You're making yourself, it's going to be more of a fast track. You're greasing the rails when you do this by cutting down the wasted currency of energy that most people do during the day.
And it's a skill, just like anything else.
It's a skill like anything else, but it's one that is highly valued and will give you immediate returns.
Right.
It's nothing you have to wait for. You will have a clear indicator by the end of the day how well you did with that. Yeah. There you have it.
All right.
Okay. Long explanation and a little slightly deeper than what we thought, but
normal, what we expected. But it's good.
But hey,
hope you enjoy.
You need the information. So
yeah, you got.
It's good to have the contextual format of
you got to
what you're
understand
doing.
why you're doing it.
Right.
It's got to have meaning, otherwise it's not going to happen.
Right, and how it tracks back to the original premise.
That's right.
Right. So there you go.
All right. Good luck with it. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.